KANU Non-Alignment by Tom Mboya, first published in Africa Today in 1965. Since the achievement of the one-party state, it has become apparent that there is need for us to reconstruct the party and to reconsider its purpose and role in nation building. In the years which led to independence, the role of the party was quite straightforward. It was to oppose the colonial government and drive it from Kenya as quickly as possible. The task which now faces the party is much more subtle. The party has to be the instrument through which the government's policies are brought to the people and through which the views of the people are brought up to the government. The party must weld together all citizens. It must build comradeship between cabinet ministers, branch leaders, members of parliament, councillors, and leaders at all levels. That is why we are holding this series of regional meetings in preparation for a national meeting. That national meeting will work out in detail the strategy which the party will follow in working alongside their government. It will ensure that channels of communications are created and maintained so that there is a constant exchange of ideas between different areas and different levels of leadership. In view of the current atmosphere in the country, which has arisen from the making of a number of accusations and charges, I think it is proper that I should comment upon the overall political situation which faces us. It is quite proper and healthy that leaders at the National Assembly and outside should be sufficiently concerned about the future to express anxieties which they believe to be real and to point out dangers which they see in our land. These issues are far too important for anyone to try to misinterpret them and to brush off these reports as mere propaganda directed by one group against another. Questions which concern our policy of non-alignment must be clearly defined, and we as a party have a duty to go into them impartially. We must be sure that the party platform is being fully adhered to by the government, by members of Parliament, and by all leaders. Kenya has deliberately chosen a policy of positive non-alignment. We declared in the KANU Manifesto. In external affairs we shall follow absolutely and firmly a policy of non-alignment. We shall seek friendship with every nation that will return it. The establishment of such a relationship will not entitle any friend to choose our enemies for us. Our policy is non-alignment, not of non-commitment. We fully commit ourselves to support what we believe to be right and just in international affairs. But each case will be judged on its merits. You will see that we have made it quite clear in their manifesto, which every one of us must support, that we shall welcome friends from whatever part of their globe they may come. We shall not be biased in judging problems because of some friendship with one side or the other in a dispute. In view of the arrival in Kenya of the publication Revolution in Africa, the debate which took place in the House of Representatives the other day, and their remarks made in public since then, I think it might be useful for me to define further KANU's policy of non-alignment and to point out those dangers which we must be most careful to avoid. I would quote again from the manifesto. We said there, while our own experience and that of our brothers has rendered us particularly conscious of their remaining examples of direct Western imperialism in Africa, we are aware that colonialism can take more subtle forms and can come from communist as well as from capitalist sources. We must avoid any fixation or obsession about imperialism. We shall not be misled by empty slogans. Of course, colonialism imposed certain ties upon us, and those ties do not necessarily disappear at independence. Indeed, we welcome some of them, and we ourselves have gone out of our way to increase our connections in some respects with the former colonial power and with other Western peoples. On gaining independence, we were at once faced with the need for rapid economic developments. This means increasing investment, seeking more capital, and looking for expanded markets and technical aid. Obviously we have looked in the traditional directions. for investment and trade, and in our own interests we have even found it necessary to continue economic and trade relations with our former colonial masters. It may be asked whether this continued contact undermines our new-won independence and whether it impairs our standing in Africa. When we fought for independence, we made it clear that our struggle was not against the British people but against the British colonial power, against the regime imposed upon us. We have sought to create a new sort of relationship with the West. Relations are now on a completely new basis. We have our eyes open, and we do not intend that our urgent need for development should be manipulated to force us to pursue policies acceptable to their former colonial powers. But we must recognize that attempts to exploit our economic weakness and our urgent needs may not be confined to the former colonial powers. Other developed countries from the East, to whom we may look for assistance, may be tempted to do their same. They may also be tempted to try to impose economic colonialism or neocolonialism upon us. Kenya cannot be duped into thinking that the only evil that can come to the country can come from there West merely because our former colonial masters and the imperialists of the past have come from the West. Nor can anyone deceive us into believing that there is no basis for good and genuine friendship with the nations of the West. Much lip service has been paid in some communist quarters to the idea of giving economic assistance to Kenya, but, in fact, most of our present-day development and the measures we are taking for our economy and reconstruction are being greatly assisted through the friendly cooperation and understanding of some of the nations of the West, such as Britain, West Germany, and the United States. Equally, while it is true that by virtue of winning our independence we have opened our doors to their East, it must be made clear that merely because Eastern countries have never had a colony in Africa, this does not mean that they have no Cold War designs upon Africa. In any case, we have made it clear that we reject the ideology of communism. It is just not good enough for some people to go around pretending that everything from the East is for the good of Africa and that everyone from the East means well for Africa. We must carefully scrutinize all those who say they are our friends, and we must take a close look at anything which they may have to offer to us. It would be a repudiation of our independence, for which we fought so hard, if we were to give the impression that KANU is available to any of the communist countries for experimentation with their ideology and their doctrines. It is equally true that some people may try to create panic and confusion by blaming every one of our problems on communism and communist intrigue. This I know, and I have warned against many times in the past. We do not want to create in Kenya the McCarthyism of America some years ago. While we must watch against this possibility, we must also beware of those who try to brush aside communism as a possible threat to our freedom. Communism is a fact in world politics, and it is a fact in the ideological and Cold War struggle. It does not do any good to try to adopt ostrich tactics and to pretend it does not exist. I call upon all leaders of the party at every level to take a stand now firmly for genuine non-alignment. If they do not, it may be that non-alignment will become a meaningless word. If we do not know exactly what we mean by non-alignment, divisions within their party will continue. I believe that some people claiming to be non-aligned are using this as a cloak for becoming aligned and for departing from KANU policy. Some people suggest that because of our past colonial experience we should lean towards the East. This is a betrayal of our policy. The public will not be fooled on these issues. They will notice right away that when certain things happen in the West, some people are ready to jump to conclusions, to condemn the West and to organize demonstrations. Yet when similar things happen in the East, the professional organizers of demonstrations remain silent. They try to find convenient excuses to explain away the actions of the East and to justify the position taken by the communist countries. I say that our reactions should be impartial, or else we lose our declared path. Any double talk and application of double standards is not healthy. It can undermine our stand for genuine and positive non-alignment. Let us all pledge ourselves to consider at all times nothing but the interests of Kenya and her people, above personal interests and above all existing influences. Very soon we shall publish an authoritative document defining in great detail the meaning of African socialism and the way we mean to implement it in there, carrying out of our economic plans and programs. The time has come for those who go around using the phrase African socialism as a cloak to introduce some alien doctrine to cease their song. We already have the KANU Manifesto, which makes it clear that Marxist doctrines have no place in our socialism. I hope that when we issue our definitive statement, all leaders will come together to support the government and the party without reservation on this issue. But I will say now that there is something very real, which is African socialism. We do reject scientific socialism and we reject communism as well as capitalism. We cannot afford to be vague on this issue and hope to preserve unity within the party and within the country. We must stand by KANU's manifesto. I would like to comment, in passing, on the recent elections of a national member in the lower house and of a Kenya representative to the Central Legislative Assembly. I have heard that some have suggested that the results of the election were madness, while others have said that this election indicated that the party was disunited and undisciplined. I would say that those who comment in this way have refused to see the significance of what took place. These results clearly indicate that work needs to be done to bring about genuine party unity and discipline. It is obvious the results were, in fact, a reaction not so much against the personalities or abilities of their candidates selected by the party previously, but rather a reflection of infighting within the party. I would now declare quite openly that this factional disease truly exists within our party. It exists among members of parliament and among various levels of leadership. I call upon the party now to seek ways and means of eliminating this disease. Unity will only be restored on the basis of the party manifesto. I tell you, we must remove such forces as may seek to capture the party machine and organization for their own purposes. We must deal with any forces who would wish to promote policies which are contrary to those already declared by the party in the manifesto. Only in this way shall we have a united party able to work alongside the government in the building of a truly independent Kenya.